I was 26 years old when I became a United Church of Christ pastor and became the minister at a UCC congregation in Henderson, Kentucky, which is in western Kentucky, just across from Evansville, Indiana. At the time, that church had 12 members, all in their 80s and 90s, and they called me to be their out gay pastor. During my time there, the church grew significantly to about 300 members, and we did a lot of creative justice work, a lot of it controversial. We were the only church within a 2-hour radius where gay and lesbian people could come to worship, and I was often humbled and marveled at the fact that people would drive that far to come to be a part of our community. We used to experience many vitriolic protests out in front of the church, and I would think about those 12 elderly members as they would come in past these very hateful protesters. And I'll be honest, I would feel like, what have I done to their church that had been their safe haven, and now they were being called things that they never thought that they would be called in their little German UCC church. But they stood with me during my entire 8 years as pastor there. One of those members was Lillian Hoffman. She was very proper. She always sat on the back row. She loved classical music. She had about 12 cats and a real extravagant garden behind her Victorian house. She always sat in the same spot every Sunday. And I always enjoyed seeing Lillian there as a reminder of that church's present from the past up into its future. One particular weekend in the newspaper, there were lots of very nasty letters to the editor about our church that had been published. And whenever that happened, a number of people from the community would come. It would almost ensure good attendance on the Sunday morning. But as I was sharing the benediction at the end of that service, I would always have the same words. I would say, "Now go forth into the world in peace and be of good courage and care for the weak and the suffering, the oppressed, and lift up those who have fallen and fight the good fight for freedom and justice." And something about that gathering of people, both old and new, that gathering of people packed in pews in which they had driven several hours to be in worship that morning, I became overcome with this sense of how important this UCC church was, that we were about the most important things in the world, justice and love and community, and I became overcome with emotion. And so I quickly dismissed everyone, and I started out to the back to the narthex to shake hands, and Lillian Hoffman reached out in a way very uncharacteristic of her, and she grabbed my arm, and she said, "I'm with you." And I became really teary about that, and that's one moment that I'll always remember changed my life. I went on to preach the funerals for 11 of those 12 members, and I carry with me the hopefulness that they had for their church and the love that they have for the United Church of Christ, and it is my ordination into ministry.